everyone, I'm back in the UK! By the time you've watched this, I've probably left the UK again because I'm being ridiculously busy and I'm so behind, but that's irrelevant. For those of you who are new here, first of all, hey, I'm Christiane, I'm 21. I have just returned from a 3-month trip to Australia. I've actually just returned from Thorpe Park today. But 2 days ago I returned from Australia. It was a really bittersweet experience because I was super sad to leave, but I was really excited to come home to catch up with everybody, and I'm definitely ready for new adventures. A big part of why I like to travel is to recognise the differences and particularisms of new places and compare them to what I'm used to back home. I always go with an open mind and try to immerse myself into being a local as much as I can, so I'm quite literally experiencing and seeing and understanding everything for myself that goes on in the world. I don't want to be absorbed in my own little south of England bubble my whole life. I like to broaden my horizons, as it were, as much as possible. But without going too deep into that, if you want I can do a whole video on why I travel. But the purpose of me telling you that is that with all that in mind, having worked and lived in Australia now for 3 months, I've of course been thinking, what have I learnt living in Perth, and what has surprised me, and how is it different from what I'm used to? So without further ado, here is what I learnt living in Perth. Let's start with the obvious, shall we? And being British, I feel that it would be frankly scandalous to ignore such a subject as the weather. It was amazing! So I was there throughout the summer and I think it literally rained about once, and that was for about 10 minutes. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it is an actual fact the sunniest city in the world. Sunnier than LA. Like, you'd wake up every morning and it's almost guaranteed completely blue skies, not a cloud in sight. However, it is also ranked the second windiest city in the world behind Auckland, New Zealand. So I always like to wear sort of light, flowy dresses to work. In England, I'd be wearing tights, but it is far too hot for tights in Australia. But every single morning I would regret my wardrobe decision as I walk down the street and just my dress would just be blown up all over the shop. I guess if you've ever dreamed of being like Marilyn Monroe, then Perth is the ideal place for you. But as I walk down the street trying to style out my wardrobe malfunction as if I'm Marilyn Monroe, I was more channeling a sort of Bridget Jones vibe. Also, speaking of working wardrobe, flip-flops to work is a thing, or thongs. Now let's talk about the exciting topic of transport. Everyone needs to get around, so everyone uses transport, and the public transport system in Perth is run by Transperth. So you can get this Transperth card, which I guess is like the equivalent of an Oyster card. It just means that you can go anywhere and you don't have to buy a ticket every time. On the whole, I thought the whole system was very good and efficient. You can't rely on the bus times, but generally I was impressed by the whole system. I always got a seat on the train during rush hour, which is unheard of in London, and on the odd occasion where I would have to stand up, normally on the way home, I didn't actually mind. On the train in London, I don't know what it is, but I hate standing up. Like, I literally despise it. I like feel sick and I'm like, oh. But it's fine in Perth. I don't know if it's because it's sunny outside, I don't know if it's because everyone just seems happier or there's more space, but I don't mind standing up, so I guess that's good. The buses in the city centre are free, which is freaking amazing, and the bus drivers are so nice. Like, literally every time you walk on the bus they're like, hello, and every single person on the bus will make an effort to say thank you to the driver when they get off, which I just think that's lovely, you know? But whether it was a train or a bus, I swear, come 5 PM, it would stink. I would step on that bus and I would be like, I would be pulling a face as if to say someone is about to get punched. I'm sure I was contributing to the smell, like it was very warm, everyone was sweating, it's understandable, but it was bad. Driving was on the left-hand side of the road, which was perfect because I was driving my sister's car and I didn't have to worry about having a panic attack every time I turn around a corner unlike I would in America. But undertaking is not a thing, or it is a thing. Basically in the UK it's a fairly strict law that everyone has to drive on the outside lane and you can only go on the other ones if you're overtaking, which makes sense, it's fair enough. And I think it is the same law in Australia, but no one sticks to it. Everyone's just, oh, in their own lane, just undertaking, overtaking, going at the same speed. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, it just, I don't know, it doesn't make as much sense. And I'm assuming that the jaywalking law was quite strict in Australia because everyone would wait like 5 minutes before crossing the road, even if there was no cars. Like, they would wait for that man to turn green. I was just like, what? What you doing? And it's perfectly normal to walk around barefoot. Like, I swear you're not allowed in the UK to go to a supermarket shoeless or shirtless, but it's definitely allowed over there. Despite the boiling temperatures, I'd always still have to bring a jumper into work because inside compensates for the outside and the aircon was freezing. I'd be sitting at my desk shivering. And it also makes your skin a lot drier, so if you ever go to Australia, make sure to bring a good moisturiser for your face because like it's very dry with that aircon. McDonald's is called Macca's, Burger King is Hungry Jack's, and everything seems to end in an O. So a bottle shop is Bottle-O, or Rottnest Island, Rotto. And they had drive-through bottle shops, which is pretty cool. And Australians drink a lot. Like, I didn't really think about it too much, but I was sort of under the impression that all Australians were just super fit and tanned, but they have full-time jobs like the rest of us, so they don't have time to sunbathe. And there's such a big barbecue and beer culture over there, which is great, of course, but it means that there are a lot of overweight Aussies. And apparently Australia is a fatter nation than America. I also found that the majority of people living in Perth aren't actually from Perth, and half of them aren't even Australian. There are a lot of British families over there, and I believe that dominantly derives from the £10 Poms, where a lot of Brits moved over to Australia for a tenner back in World War II. And because the majority of people are not Australian, but they've been living in Australia, they got some weird accents over there. The amount of people I spoke to where I was just like, where on earth are you from? Because their accent was just all over the place. Other things I've learned, Australia are super relaxed about swearing and inappropriate topics on like the TV and radio during the daytime. Like, they don't beep out swear words on the radio. I was listening to the radio, I think it was at about 5 PM, and there was an ad about premature ejaculation, and they were explaining how to achieve longer, more pleasurable sex. And I was just thinking, there are probably some very young people listening to this right now who are far too young to be listening to this. In other events, you don't have to tip anyone. Amazing! I think it's because restaurants and bar staff sort of get paid enough, they don't have to rely on tips, which is great. I think everyone just gets paid more in general. I know I got paid more. In fact, I got paid about double the amount I do in the UK for doing exactly the same job. And yes, food was a bit more expensive, but I'm pretty sure living costs were more or less the same, and petrol was about half the price. So I think in general, financially, people in Perth have it better off than people in the UK. And I'm sure I can think of more things that I learned living in Perth, but this video is getting a little bit long. Oh, there is something that I noticed on the way home though. I had a layover in Kuala Lumpur Airport, and I think KL International Airport is fabulous. Lots of shops, lots of restaurants, easy to navigate, and like in lots of airports, lots of space to lug your luggage around. However, despite this, I found myself getting stressed, and I don't often get stressed. The reason being is because everyone was so slow at moving. I know that sounds weird, but I swear, children would be in the middle like, and their parents would be behind them like, elderly people, backpackers, even veteran traveller businessmen. I'm going to put it down to that most people were on a layover and probably tired, but I swear to God, I was just like, come on. But yeah, I think I was just tired and getting more irritated than probably necessary. But let me know if you've ever noticed this in KL International Airport. In fact, let me know if you agree or disagree with anything I said in the video, because I'd love to know. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already for all the newest adventures. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!